What's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul. I've got one of the interior pages of Noah's Startling Comics number 48. This is one of the interior leaves that we were washing and doing Japanese paper repair on. I completed this repair, and then I noticed as the book was drying that there's actually a large rip in the page down here. So what I thought we'd do is just use this opportunity to show how we do a repair like that on a page that's already dry. So what I don't want to do is just repair this with the Tengujo paper like you've seen me before. And the reason why is because this page is dry now. I could do that, but when I do that, I'm going to wet this area, and then this area is going to dry. It's already got a rip in it. So there's an opportunity here for the paper to shift, and it's going to create a ripple or otherwise some defect that ordinarily you might think you could press, but because you've locked it in with the Tengujo paper, it's very difficult to press out. So what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be wetting this whole page, just dampening it, and then we'll do the repair, and then we'll place this back in the cold press to dry. So I'm going to set up the materials that I need to do that, and we'll go through those, and I'll be right back. All right, we have all the materials we need now to do the paper mending here on this tear that we found as we were drying this page after this first mending and after it went through a de-acidification bath. So what do we have? We have our leaf on Hollytex. The Hollytex is going to support the work and allow us to move it around safely. We have methyl cellulose. This is purchased from Lineco and prepared per the manufacturer's instructions. We have Japanese paper, also known as Tengujo. I've roughly ripped it to the size of the repair. We'll complete the rest on camera. I have a paintbrush. This is a number 4, flat. That's what I prefer to use for brushing in the methyl cellulose. And then we have the solution that we're going to use to wet the page. This is calcium hydroxide, and this is a 1/4 or 25% saturated solution. So it's 0.4 grams calcium hydroxide per liter in water. I use tap water. The reason I use tap water is because I live out in the country and we have lime water. And so it actually provides more of a alkaline reserve than distilled water would use. And of course, it's more cost effective. If you live out in the country like me and you have alkaline water or calcium water or what's known as hard water, then you can use your tap water. If you live in the city and you have chlorinated water, you may not do that. It will defeat the purpose, and your chlorinated water can potentially hasten breakdown of the book. The reason why we're using calcium hydroxide is because I've already put an alkaline reserve in these pages. So I've been through all the pages of Noah's book. We've de-acidified every page. We're actually very close to reassembling the whole book. And as I said, I noticed this tear. So we're gonna do this repair, and then we'll be wrapping up the rest of the cold press of all these pages, and then the reassembly and final press of the book. One more thing of note, I have this in a brown bottle, but this solution is not photolabile. It's stable with, exposure to light. It does not have to be in a brown bottle. This just happens to be what I had on hand, convenient, and so that's why I have it in a brown bottle. All right, let's go ahead and complete the preparation of this Tengujo paper for the repair. So the repair goes from here to here. I want to go a little bit beyond it. So I want to go essentially just the sort of beginning of this blue area to there. So this piece of Tengujo is already torn on all the sides, and I want to make the repair piece something like that. I'm going to go ahead and complete the tear on this side. And this is relatively straightforward, but I just thought I would do it on camera for you. You want to tear it with your fingers rather than cut the material with a blade or scissors. And the reason for that is because we actually want all these frayed edges, because they are really good at holding our glue and making sure that we have a surface that is going to take up the glue and then bond with the paper really well. And this one edge was not torn sort of jaggedly enough to my liking, which is why I've just torn a little bit more off on that side. All right, now, and I know it does not show up super well in this background. Maybe I'll put it on this piece of Delrin. Now you can see that we have these really nice edges that are going to spread out, bond with the paper with the help of the methyl cellulose, and give us a really good, strong mend of the paper. So it's going to go something approximately like that. And I'm just doing a dry fit. I'm happy with that. So now we're going to remove it because I'm going to wet the paper. So you notice as the paper is absorbing the water, it's turning darker brown from the sort of, tan color that it was initially. Our goal is to essentially get all of the paper. I don't know that it'll all be the same uniform dark tan color, but our goal is to get it tanned like that so that we know that the paper is saturated through. This will take a moment. So we'll either do a time lapse or I will let the paper do that off camera. And then once it's saturated, I will come back and show you the repair. All right. We've got the paper now sandwiched between two pieces of Hollytex. And I just did that because I found that it would be easier to get the paper saturated and to get it in a position where we want it for safe movement to our cold press. Now, recall that I would never touch paper. I'm just wiping it with a paper towel right now. I would never touch paper this way, right? I'm touching the Hollytex, the top layer, which is over top of the paper. And the other thing that I'm doing right now is I'm sort of squeezing out any excess calcium hydroxide aqueous solution. And this is going to give us a really nice paper to work with for this mending. And as you can see, it's damp, but not like, it's saturated, but not dripping. That's kind of how I want it. All right, so this Hollytex top layer is going to allow me to just roll this back, do the repair, and then put this Hollytex right back in place. And I'm going to use my little Delrin block just to make sure that that doesn't move. Right now our tear, I should say, is almost invisible. And that's how we want it. It's another reason why we wet the paper, so that we could get the paper to a position, get the paper to just how we wanted it for this mending. Okay, I think that covers the tear really well. Since the paper's wet, again, I put it in the middle where I want it and then spread outward from there. I'm just sort of tapping the Japanese paper down, and you notice how it almost disappears just by tapping with my finger. And now we're going to add the methyl cellulose with our brush. And as you recall, what we do is start in the middle, and what I'm going to be doing is putting the methyl cellulose down and then going away in both directions, so that as I pull the brush is actually taking those little fibers that we left on the edges when we did a tear instead of a cut, and it's pulling them out and sticking them down to the paper that we're trying to mend. If you brush back toward the center of the Japanese paper, then you're taking those fibers and you're mashing them up, and you're not spreading them out on your paper so that they will get good coverage and spread and strengthen your paper where the mend happened. So that's why we're always going to start in the center and pull out and away, so that we spread those fibers out as we go and get the best coverage that we can. And it's even difficult to see where the mend is supposed to be, because it does just become almost invisible. I'm working a little bit. I think this would be better if I was ambidextrous, but I'm not. Certainly not with paintbrushes. And as I mentioned before regarding the amount of methyl cellulose to use, I put it on wet and then I dry brush it. I make sure there's enough for the tengujo to disappear and appear, essentially invisible. And then I dry brush it so that it no longer appears sort of glistening wet. It's still going to look damp like the rest of the paper is, because it is damp, but it's no longer going to be sort of glistening like fluid sort of sitting on top of the paper, right? Okay. I'm going to dry brush this just a little bit more. I am going to do it left-handed. There we go. So that repair is complete. I'm going to put my Hollytex back over the repair now. I'm going to make sure it's down nice and flat. And then we can move this now to our cold press station. This is cold press just like I showed you before, with paper towel above and below and a little bit of weight. Initially we swap out the paper towel quite often, frequently, and then as it dries we do it less and less frequently. So that's all I wanted to show you today. specifically, you know, kind of how not to do it. I would not want to just wet that area and just do the repair there. The correct way to do it is to re-wet the page, to use a de-acidifying solution as you do that, so that you leave an alkaline reserve in the paper and you make a stronger repair and a piece of paper that's going to last another 80 years. So next episode, we'll have this out of the cold press, plus we should have all the other leaves done, and we will start looking to put this book back together for Noah and move toward a final press. So until next time, enjoy the hunt and take care of one another.